of course Easter weekend, which means there's nothing really for me to do other than eat chocolate and sit and think about The Sims. But you know what our Sims can't do? They can't make chocolate. They also can't do a ton of stuff, even though we just got an expansion pack that is quite literally called The Sims 4 Businesses and Hobbies. What did we get? 2 hobbies, to be specific, and one of them kind of even debatable if like tattooing is technically considered a hobby. I guess it can start as a hobby for some people, an interest, if you will, but for most people it very much becomes their life work. It becomes their career. And I know, I hear you lot over in Europe who had way better titles for this pack than we did in English. A lot of your packs were called like Hobbies to Businesses, you know, kind of taking this idea of taking your hobby, something that you love, and turning it into a career, doing what you love for money and being paid for what you love, which I definitely think that is a way better name. I think Hobbies turned to Businesses is definitely more specific when it comes to the type of pack we're talking about. But today I figured, why not go on a cheeky little rant, because you all know I bloody love a good rant about The Sims 4, about all the hobbies I personally still feel are missing from the game. Starting off with what I possibly think is the biggest overlook of businesses and hobbies. I really feel like this could have hit both the businesses idea and the hobbies idea, and I'm shocked, appalled, heartbroken that they didn't include it. And that is, of course, more arcade games. I actually, in my Let's Play that I've been doing for businesses and hobbies, I downloaded a Vic Vector from the gallery, one of my beloved My Sims characters, and he is basically running his own arcade. However, it's a little bit naff because we don't have the arcade games that I personally would like to see. I don't know why we are, 11 years into The Sims 4 and we still haven't seen a pool table in sight. We got a foosball table back in like the 3rd expansion for The Sims 4 in Get Together, but we haven't had a pool table ever, and I know so many people miss it. Also in the UK, we always have pool tables in arcades. They kind of like always merge those two together. You could have maybe a little like young adults only area, and you could have like slot machines, you could have like your own little mini casino, maybe roulette, where even if you do own an arcade, you could potentially also be losing money based on what people win. Whack-a-mole, grabbers, aka claw machines. My family have always called them grabbers. If you're from the UK and also call them grabbers, let me know, because I feel like I am one of the only people who do it, not to sound like a pick-me. Shooter games, racing sims, those electronic basketball nets, hey, that could even get up like maybe your fitness skill, as could like the punching bag. Now don't get me wrong, like I said, I do have an arcade basically going, and it does include like a couple of like the board games that we have, also the like virtual cube and the one arcade game that we have. So I have been able to do it by like charging people on entry, but it's just not as realistic as I would like it to be. I truly think that this could have been the perfect moment for them to introduce more arcade games, and I'm like I said, I'm shocked that we haven't had like an arcade pack yet. But it doesn't surprise me considering stuff packs have only just made a return and game packs seem to be shoved back into the closet by EA. Kind of in my mind it goes hand in hand with arcades in my brain, but I guess these two could be completely separate if you wanted them to be. But comic book stores, I would absolutely love it if alongside bookshops we could also have comic book shops, or even just like a magazine shop. It could be a mix of the two. It doesn't just have to be comics, but you could have this as a special like collection. Maybe there's like a super rare comic in the Sims world that you can find, and then that can be a collection, and you can go out and maybe like search people's rubbish or order them purely offline. It could be like a weekly subscription, and they could either include like a fun little story in the notifications, and like issue after issue could kind of build on this story a little bit more. Maybe you get them out of order, so it's a little bit harder to kind of finish your collections. Maybe you just collect based on covers and then you could display them, or you could have them as like a stack in your room for you to kind of read whenever you wanted to. I also think if we had magazines, those could help work on your skill levels, and you could have different magazines for different skills that we have in the game. Yes, this is very like The Sims 2, where they used to give you like a hobby magazine in free time, and that would actually build your interest in like a certain hobby grouping, and you could kind of build on your skills that way. I also personally think that Sims should be able to draw their own comics and publish their own comics. But we will get into those skills that I definitely think need an update and an upgrade, just like gardening got once upon a time, because there are a fair few of them. And it's not just the usual culprits. Again, kind of goes hand in hand for me, but I do feel like they could have done a little bit more with the gaming side of things. We do have puzzles. We obviously have like card games, and also a game called Don't Wake the Llama, which technically I feel are like classed as board games in The Sims 4 because they're all on that like board game table. But we have a lot of board game clutter, but not actual board games in The Sims 4. So your classic like checkers, snakes and ladders. Obviously, we do already have chess, but that's kind of like its own separate entity. I just think having more board games would definitely be nice. You definitely could have ran like a board game / cafe or bar. I would absolutely love it if our Sims could also play D&D. And also cosplaying, like creating their own outfits, like making their own outfits, going to Comic Cons. I know technically we already have like Geek Con in City Living, but I think just having all of those things and having like a proper like geek culture in The Sims 4 would be really, really cool. I would love a D&D activity though. Like imagine you actually get to play not like a mini game, but you do get to let your Sims roll, and then they get different like pop-ups and notifications depending on how they've rolled, and you can have like a number of different stories to tell. I see it kind of working like stories that you can tell around the campfire. Maybe there's a number of different campaigns, maybe like 7 campaigns that you can choose from. Perhaps one is like pirate theme, the other is like princesses, sci-fi, and then sort of just depending on how your Sims play together, they end up in different circumstances, and you can have pop-ups that like say, do you want to go this way or that way? Because we already have those. I am in fact a firm believer that we are getting a bands pack in November. That might make me sound like a conspiracy theorist, but I received a Season of The Sims 2025 calendar. Do you know what was in March? A robber. You know what we got in March? Robbers. You know what November has a picture of? Bands. Thank you very much. That's my investigation. Done and dusted. So I definitely think that we could potentially get different instruments to go along with a bands expansion pack that I am saying is dropping in November. I know nothing. I'm just sat here hoping, because I've been hoping for a bands pack, honestly, for as long as probably I've been wishing for a hobbies pack. Kind of hoping I love where bands go a little bit more than where I loved that hobbies went. And I have spoken about my perfect bands pack, which I'll link like up here if you want to go watch it. I could probably go even into more detail nowadays, but I won't. I want our Sims to be able to play drums. We got an awful lot of jazz references in businesses and hobbies, so I would love it if like wind instruments and like sax instruments and more jazz instruments were included. I want an electric guitar that looks like an electric guitar, but not only looks like one, because we do have a couple of those already, that acts like an electric guitar. If they give me a bands pack and they don't sort out how those electric guitars play, that might get me to quit The Sims 4. I might just leave it. Channel over, dead and buried, RIP me. You would have loved a real bands pack in The Sims 4. Because currently electric guitars just sound the exact same as acoustic guitars, and it grinds my gears more than it needs to. So I would love for electric guitars to sound like electric guitars. Imagine your band members having like a little solo. I would love solos personally. I would love being able to like play a solo on stage and feel like a real rock star. Ukuleles, bring me back to my Never Shout Never era. Recorders. I would love for your kid to randomly come home with a recorder. The violins sound awful enough in The Sims 4. Imagine having to listen to a Sims kid play a recorder. It would be absolutely iconic. It's a moment that we all remember in primary school. Toddlers, they don't even have a xylophone. Toddlers have had xylophones since like The Sims 2. Why do they not have a xylophone in The Sims 4? Usually I sing the praises of Sims 4 toddlers, but that is a big old missing feature. Cellos, bass, I want it all. Also, I really want for kids to be able to play the guitar. We don't have a guitar that kids can play. They can play the piano, they can play violin. I also really wish that kids could actually go for like lessons. I wish that they could go for like tutoring. I wish that maybe if they did play piano or violin, imagine if they could have a tutor come over and they could teach them how to play and then their skill increases. I guess you can kind of do that with mentoring now, but it's a little bit harder to do if you aren't controlling both Sims at the same time. So it's really like a family member who has to mentor, or you have to be playing like a family friend or something. You can't just like call someone up and be like, hey, will you come and mentor me? And then they will. Dancing, I obviously think should have been included. I guess this is kind of an update because we do technically have dance, but I really wish that dancing was a hobby that would have been added. I know so many people miss the ballet bar from The Sims 2, and I am right there with you. I absolutely loved it. But I think having different dance classes, different categories of dance in general, and I know it probably means a lot of animation, but I personally think it would be worth it. Specifically the bike collection, I think they could have done something really cool with that bike collection, and that is metalwork / sculpting. Also, perhaps glass blowing, because I definitely miss glass blowing. We obviously got pottery, but it just felt very mid. It didn't really feel that great to me, even though I'm a person who's wanted pottery for a really long time. I don't think they had enough choice in the stuff that you can make, and I think adding like a different creative element of that would have felt really nice. I guess with pottery, there's a little bit of sculpting because there's that one like wall sculpture that you can make, but I really miss going to like the scrapyard in The Sims 3 Ambitions and finding like different scrap heaps and then using that to make your work. How cool would it be if you could like burn down upgrade parts that my Sims constantly find, and they could then use that to create a metal sculpture? That's where it also ties in with the bikes for me. Like, imagine if you had finished that bicycle collection, kind of like the feathers collection, and you could actually create a sculpture from those bike parts, and it's like this cool thing that could like sit in your Sims house or in a museum somewhere. Sports just need an overhaul in general. I definitely think we need way more sports in the game. Really, all we have right now is a little American football, a UK football, soccer ball, I guess, and basketball. I think those are the only 3 sports that we can currently do. But they're very basic. It's like, hey, stand around and kick this ball or throw this ball to another sim or shoot some hoops. We need more sports. We need volleyball, baseball, gymnastics, martial arts, tennis. I mean, the list could go on when it comes to sports, but I feel like those sports need to be less of a solo thing, just like a random thing that you can do that gets your fitness up. And they actually need to be able to join teams. We should be able to go to a practice, say on like a Saturday morning. I would even love like ice hockey, field hockey, roller skating. Like, we already have some of these in the game, but I really wish they would flesh it out so that we could go to a team practice on a Saturday morning with our children or our teenagers, and we could use that actually as an event, and it was a team activity and it felt like Sims were doing it together. It would give those younger age groups more things to do, because right now, especially for children, everything feels so solo. Unless you go out of your way to like make a club in get together. But even then, you can't like play team games. I wish that you could go just for a rabbit hole game. Again, like you could have a pop-up like, should your sim go for the goal? Should they pass it to their teammate? And then they can win or lose. And that kind of gives them a little moodlet for the day. They get sad or maybe angry if they've lost. And then they're like happy or excited, energized if they won. Or maybe they get energized after a loss because they're like, you know what? This means that we can train harder next week. And then all throughout the week, maybe they invite over a friend and they get to like practice that sport together. That kind of needs sports to be split up though. I already think that that should happen. I think we should have a basketball skill, a soccer skill, swimming skill, instead of it all going into fitness. Diving could be its own skill. That might not be for everyone. I do think that we could get a UI update, which I desperately think we need a UI update, which I might actually do a video on like UI updates. I would physically pay to see, but maybe a grouping of skills and then being able to click into folders. Basically, I just think we need customization of the UI because it's becoming so overcrowded 11 years down the line. Imagine just being able to click into like fitness and then it shows you the skills that you have actually under fitness and the skill points that you have for each of those kind of like minor skills. I know sports was kind of towing the line between new and updated, so now I'm actually going to talk about the updated things I would like to see in The Sims 4 when it comes to hobbies. Woodworking, I'm gonna try and not like spew about this too much because you all know how I feel about woodworking. I wish that we just had way more objects, especially now that we have heirlooms. I think you could tell such personal stories through what your Sims can make, such as kid toys like rocking horses, toy boxes, little wooden toys that children can play with, and then you can pass down from generation to generation. Maybe they can start to wear away after a certain time and they can start to degrade. Maybe it can go from an excellent quality with like a stunning paint finish to being passed down through generation to generation. And then the paint starts chipping. Maybe children start getting splinters from playing with said wooden toy. And they're like, Mummy, I think it needs to go to hospital. And then your Sim could, again, bring back a skill that was a thing in a generation like long lost. And maybe the family have like fallen out of love of woodworking. And then they have to research it a little bit. They tippy tap away on their computer, watch a couple of like SimTube videos, and then they're like, okay, I feel like I can potentially like update and, you know, upgrade this toy. I'm just thinking repair shop here. And then they can repaint it, they can refinish it, and then it goes back to being excellent quality. And the kid has like this brand new old toy that has lived for generations. I'm gonna cry just thinking about it. Imagine passing down like cots from generation to generation, chess tables, wedding arches. There's just so much sentimental stuff that I would love to be able to create, along with obviously a bunch of other furniture. I think that you should be able to fully deck out a house in The Sims 4 by only using the dumpster and also woodworking. I also think that like as you progress, you could also unlock certain things. So being able to paint stuff in like different colors and have different like color choices, kind of like we do in the catalog, but for when you're actually like woodworking and making things on the woodworking table, different like wood stain finishes, and they get like better and better as you progress. You unlock more. Drawing is something that I feel is so underutilized. This kind of comes back to the comic book thing and being able to like draw your own comic books and publish them, but I would absolutely love new types of art that your Sims can draw. You can do the figure painting, and then I think you can just do all the other paintings that we have available, but you can do it on the digitalistic sketchpad instead of actually doing it like on a canvas but they end up looking the same. I wish that you could do like cartoon, anime, comic book / drawings and actually see those and have those up on your wall. Like think how big like anime and cartoon drawings are. I feel like that's how most people now fall into drawing. Like my nieces have been drawing on like their iPad since they were like 3 years old, and they're really, really good nowadays because they've been on it constantly and they've been drawing like their favorite cartoons and then making their own original characters. Like how sick would it be if your Sim could have an original character? Although that's kind of freaking me out. That's giving me like a Sim is finding out that they're a Sim and that they're our original character, but then they have an original character. It's like a simulation within a simulation. No, I need to stop thinking about it, or else I'll be really disappointed that that's not going to be the Sims film that's coming out. I swear, if you want to take my murder mystery as a Sims film idea, it's it's yours. You can have it. Landscapes, just digital drawings, ones that look more like digitized rather than like the traditional paintings that we have in The Sims 4. Perspective drawings. I also really wish that we didn't just have to draw on the digitalistic sketchpad. I wish that there was a paper sketchpad. I wish that you could have maybe coloring books for children where they could like rip out a page and put it up on their wall or like gift it. I wish that kids could just draw on a table. We already have the animation. This is what infuriates me sometimes, because we know that, you know, they like to cut costs by reusing animations, which sometimes I'm like, yeah, if it doesn't need a new animation, it doesn't need a new animation. Just like use what you've got. But sometimes they refuse to use what they have. Our Sims can sit in a restaurant and draw on a placemat, but yet you can't do that at home with your kids like sat at your dining table. They have to have 50,000 little art tables for children, yet they can't just sit and draw on like a piece of paper. Make it make sense. I know to them it may make those drawing tables that they've given us 6,000 of seem obsolete. I promise you it's not. But I would like the choice. And I think everyone should be able to sit with like pen or pencils and sit down with a sketch pad or a piece of paper and be able to just draw. I actually asked my girlfriend what she would like to see updated, and she said writing, and I am right there with her. I absolutely love having Sims who are authors, and I think writing, not even just like the career, but just like as a hobby, is so underutilized. I think this could have a massive overhaul. I wish that like more events could happen for Sims who had a like high enough writing skill. Maybe Obsessed fans, which I know technically you can get in Get Famous, but I don't know if they're only available for like actors. That might actually be a fame quirk. So you might be able to get that for authors, but I would love it if that was just like a thing that you could get anyway without like being famous, or I guess having Get Famous, but they might not do that. Book signings, imagine if you got a call, agency even. We have agents for actors in The Sims 4, but we don't have agents for writers. Imagine if you could get a call if you sign up for an agency and they're like, hey, we want you to go down to this lot, and then there are Sims who are surrounding, all waiting for you to sign their books, and you get like a little kickback from that, you get some payment from that. Or maybe they're scamming you and they're like, this is paid in exposure. Imagine if you became a like big enough writer, if you were like in maybe say from skill level 8 onwards, and you could get a film deal. Like, I'm not expecting them to turn you into the Hunger Games and like actually put your story up on like our Sim screens, but imagine if you could get someone calling, be like, hey, we want to turn your first book into a film. Do you want to do it? And then they offer you maybe like 500,000 simoleons, like a wild out there number that you probably wouldn't ever really earn in the game. And you could just say yes or no. And then if that does well, maybe you sign up to like a 3 film deal and you get like 2.5 million simoleons or something. I just think that would be pretty neat. I also wish they changed the way that you write. I wish that you had to kind of go through like a drafting process, making a deal with someone, the publishing process and the editing process. I think that could be pretty cool. Maybe if you decide to skip some of those things, obviously you end up with a much poorer quality book that probably isn't going to sell as well. You could go maybe on book tours. You could like go visit the high schools as an author to like read your books, little like book readings at libraries. Maybe you get an invite saying, hey, we would love to have you like come read this children's book to the children of Willow Creek. Do you want to come to the library on Sunday? And all the kids can like gather around and listen to you read on a microphone, and it's like a little mini event. And I do also think it would be cool to have different ways that you can go about writing. Like maybe you can sell out. Maybe they're like, they want you to write this genre of book for the rest of your life. Do you want to do it? And you're just like, oh yeah, like absolutely, like this is easy money, and you can become a sellout. Or maybe you're a ghostwriter for another Sim, which means you don't really get the opportunities, but you manage to make loads of money because you're ghostwriting, staying true to your niche. So maybe you could just like get really, really good at writing one specific type of book. And then I just also think that they need to update the type of books that we have. Period novels, self-help books, those ones feel like where the scammers are gonna live. They kind of feel like the sellouts to me. Cookbooks, maybe. I definitely think they could do a massive overhaul to writing. And also journaling. Journals were a thing that we got in The Sims 4 Parenthood, and I know that Ravasheen, I'm fairly sure it is, did a really, really good overhaul on like journaling, but I wish that that was an official thing. I wish it kind of worked like journaling slash scrapbooking. I wish that you could actually type out memories and like messages when your sim was journaling about how you kind of felt in the moment. You could attach that to a moodlet, kind of like how you can do, I guess, on the social media, because that is always kind of tied to a moodlet. But then when you go to read your journal, maybe you could like read a specific entry, maybe you could just like read a random entry, and that actually influences your moodlet as kind of a reflection type thing. I would also love it if you could stick in either screenshots or just photos that your Sims took. They're in your inventory anyway. Why not make more use out of them and actually be able to like put them in a scrapbook so you can look back. You can write, again, little like memories or reminders about how you felt in that moment. Just in general, I wish that there were more for kids to do. I constantly talk about this, but kids can't even play like Tig. They can't play hide and seek. Kids feel so solitary in the game, and whilst I would love loads of new activities for children, I also think that they should have updated things. For example, if they're into void critters, I would love to be able to go to like void critter fairs where you could easily like swap and trade and like bid for shinies and stuff of that nature, kind of like how we see with Pokemon cards in the real world. They kind of allowed kids to be able to get better at adult skills once they unlock level 10 of like a certain kid skill. But I do think that there could definitely be some more items that help with that. I saw someone on the forum say, I usually like want my kids to get into archaeology, but the chemistry table feels really different to archaeology. So how cool would it be if kids could buy a little fossil kit and then they could do like little mini digs and find fossils, and then that's kind of what gets them into archaeology, and that archaeology skill could go up as they were interacting with that item. I think we just need to look at like children and the type of things that kids are into and see how that could relate to skills within the game, and introduce those sort of, I guess, smaller activities and hobbies just to show off their interests. And also I think homework slash projects should help with skills. I find it silly that it doesn't. We do kind of have that in high school for teens now. When they actually go to a specific class, they will start to gain those skills that it kind of relates to. For example, an art class will teach them the painting skill, the photography skill, and something else. I don't actually think the pottery skill has been included in that. I think you should be able to decide what homework your kid is doing, or they have like different homework for different days, like maybe logic on a Monday and then creative writing on like a Tuesday. I clearly have a lot to say, and I know I've spoken about these things in the past, but every so often I like just like making updates. I constantly think of like new things that I want to be added. Even if I spoke about something in the past, I'll be like, oh, what about this addition to that thing that I've already spoken about? So that's really why I wanted to make this video, and it felt like the right time considering we did just get a pack called Hobbies and Businesses, even though it was heavy on the business side of things and not as heavy as I would like it to be on the hobbies side of things. You know, I also love making these videos because it also opens up the comment section to you lot. I absolutely love opening the floor and being like, hey, if something I said really, really resonated with you and you would like to see it, but you have like way more ideas, I would love to hear it in the comments below. I love reading essays on these types of videos of just like, this is what I want, boom, 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 and like these little sub features of this like main feature. I mean, I nerd out about this stuff, and I love when you lot absolutely nerd out about this stuff as well. So please do not hesitate to leave all of your comments, feedback, critiques, criticism in the comments down below. I cannot wait to read it. I didn't talk about like a mechanic skill, but again, I've kind of spoken in the past about obviously fixer-upper cars, and also just like a mechanic like job and skill, and how I think they could do that and what I would like to see out of it. I did a lot of those in like my businesses and hobbies. I think I did a wish list before businesses and hobbies came out, so I'll also like link that in the description down below in case you're thinking you didn't talk about this topic, but I know that you're pretty darn passionate about it. It's just because I didn't want to spend too much time going through like regurgitation, but I appreciate you all so much. Thank you for being the biggest Sims fans right alongside me. Thank you for all your wonderful ideas and features and things that I know I personally can never come up with. I appreciate you all, and I will speak to you all in my next one. Bye now. Damn. Even my top says it. My top is telling you how thankful I am for each and every single one of you.